So, just to let you know, Valerie's not gonna be able to join us in person this evening. She's gonna try to join us via Zoom. She has not connected yet. And then William is not, you got that message?
Okay. That was the last one.
So if Valerie cannot connect, we have a forum.
We still have a quorum to discuss if
Okay.
we want to go forward. So that's what we, because there's 4 of us, Valerie, William, and like in the doctor's name. Catherine, thank you.
Russell, Ken, Matt, William, Valerie, Virgil, Catherine. 7. 4 for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Would submit, Mr. President, and we have a quorum.
Any of you guys vegan? I mean, I don't think you are, because vegans basically, you know, if you're around a vegan, because they won't start out vegan. I got a free cookie from Kroger with a coupon, and something I was gonna buy anyway. Protein, yeah, it's all plant protein, it's vegan. So if any of you guys would like a nice, delicious double chocolate 16-gram vegan
You're
cookie.
making me so tempted.
Nothing against vegan. It's not my thing.
All right, and we,
It's got a couple hippies on the front too.
we have a quorum. We just go ahead, even though we may be waiting on Valerie.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
Okay, this is the October 2022, it is October, sorry. Animal Management Commission meeting. First agenda item is the minutes from last meeting. Anybody got any noted incorrections or anything that needs to be discussed with that?
I would move to adopt, to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll make a second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, the aye now, I'm going to vote.
Okay,
Aye, Matt.
Virgil,
Virgil.
aye.
Ken.
Russell, I.
Ken Buzzard, aye.
Valerie, I.
I didn't know you were there
She
yet.
snuck on when you were.
Yeah, thank you. That carried unanimously. The only item on the main agenda is the ordinance is question, potential dangerous, all that. So we want to kick it off.
May I make a recommendation regarding the agenda?
Mhm.
Since we have a member of the public here, could I recommend that we switch public comment and do that first? And then
I'd be willing to do that.
And then have an open session.
Agreeable to it.
Sure.
Yes, hopefully you can dispatch with me.
Well, we're getting ready to dive into changes to the ordinances, and it's probably gonna be like an hour-long discussion
Yeah.
of paragraphs and wording.
Can
Should it
be
say
long.
shall, or should it say will, and it's gonna bore us, so I figured to respect your time, you know.
Hey.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, I respect your time as well. What I'm hoping to, I just have a few questions and then possibly a recommendation or suggestion.
Please, for the record, your name is,
Oh, I'm sorry, Lisa McCarchuck.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Please go ahead. I'm the president of the board, Matt Collar. Virgil Souter, director of shelter.
I'm in the sheriff's office.
Or office. Go ahead.
Joe Public.
Yeah,
Public.
that's also with us tonight.
I probably
I buy
don't
you beer.
remember anything you just told me, but.
That's
So anyway, that's us. So please go ahead.
Okay, I know that when an animal management officer responds to a call, they never know what's gonna happen or what it's gonna be that they're needing. So there's probably not a really rigid, procedural thing. It probably depends on what they need, what they end up doing. But I'm hoping to find out, in a situation where there's two parties, two humans, and, animal management is called because one or both is accusing the other of some offense. Like, if let's just say party A is accusing party B of their dog attacking party A's dog and injuring it. So animal management is called and they're not able to respond immediately. When they come, they then afterwards decide that there's probably been a violation. Then at that point, they consult with the attorney.
No, they actually, the officer, we have an officer right here. He
Hi.
can go through those steps very quickly
So,
for you.
you live in Yellowstone, Kelly Heights,
Yeah,
so I'm familiar with what has taken place with you and the neighbor in the past years. So, in my determination on me dealing with you,
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Vest. Dan Vest. It's about your neighbor and your fence, and his dog bit your dog through the fence at one time.
Actually, I'm not here about that issue at all. That's been resolved.
Okay.
So a hypothetical situation you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
For example, anything that I've found, was all more of a civil issue than it was,
Yeah.
regarding us.
I'm just wondering when the officer responds, if they decide that if they suspect there's been a violation of the animal management code, then what's the next step?
He can write a citation. He cannot write a citation. He can talk to the people, try to work it out amongst themselves. He's got a lot of leeway there, what he can do. I mean, it's simple.
But,
He's got a lot of leeway what he can do.
so, so the county attorney, who's the advisor to that officer.
Now, we're talking about something, you said hypothetical, but you're going back now to saying, we talk about something specific here?
No, so you're saying that the officer.
Has discretion.
Has full discretion as to whether to issue the citation or not, and does not need to consult with the county attorney.
No,
Okay, and then the citation is issued, that would be from the sheriff's department.
animal management, which is
Right.
under the sheriff's. which
And
is-
then is the sheriff's department also responsible for notifying the person who cited that they have a right to appeal?
Like, that would be kind of legal. Or would that be the officer issuing the citation?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's on your ticket itself.
that.
Right, so in the process of the
You have
ticket,
the right to appeal and it gives you directions how to appeal.
And it gives you the right to what?
It gives you directions on how to appeal.
Okay,
It's right on the back of the citation.
okay. And then at that point in time, is the complainant notified that citations were issued?
Not necessarily.
It's really none of the business on how we took care of it, as long as they just want to prevent it from happening again.
And then if the respondent decides to appeal, then the complainant is notified.
No.
But doesn't the complainant have a right to present evidence and testimony as to what occurred?
If they have something pertinent to say, it might be notified.
so,
If they what?
If they have something
Yeah.
important and pertinent to the case to say, they might be notified, specified.
So the best way to think about it is the officer's writing a ticket, and if the ticket's being appealed, what's being appealed is, it's basically that judgment of the officer to write a ticket. If the officer believes that having a witness or somebody here to support his case, then they could invite them here, but it's not standard practice to invite everybody involved, everybody who called in to come to that hearing. Does that answer your question?
If I can just say. For example, if I write a citation, it's for rabies, something like that, they can contact the county attorney, county legal department, and say, look, I've got rabies vaccination records. they can then dismiss it. But if it comes down to, hey, this dog is on my property, it bit my dog, it done this, county legal would then contact me and say this individual is wanting to appeal this ticket. That's when it would come here in front of the Animal Management Commission for it to be appealed,
So if,
and both parties would be invited.
well, that's what I was asking.
If it was something to that extent, that would come here to be appealed, then county legal, I assume, reaches out to both parties.
Okay, I guess that's where my recommendation would start, because I've been trying to find out how exactly this works, the order that things are done and who's responsible for doing them. But it seems all very amorphous, and what can end up happening because of that is that you could end up with someone appealing a citation, and the party that made the complaint doesn't know about it, was maybe even told that nothing could be done. And then there's no evidence to support the complaint because the officer did not follow up to get any evidence. And again, there was no testimony, and the commission ends up deciding there's not enough evidence to uphold this citation, and we're dismissing it. You know, the person who made the complaint didn't even bother to come. So anyway, I want to keep it hypothetical, but my recommendation is that when there's a case where there would be two parties, maybe with just a dispute as to what exactly happened, and the law enforcement hasn't gathered any evidence, didn't bother to take photos, didn't get veterinary reports, and even told the complainant, along with the county attorney, that the county couldn't do anything, but then issued citations and agreed to hear an appeal. It would be a good practice that when the respondent appeals and it's a situation where the complainant should be notified that there's an appeal, there's a hearing, and that they have a right to attend, that communication should be copied to someone on the AMC, so that when you're all gathered and you have in front of you one or the other party, you at least know that the absent party is aware of what's happening.
So, thank you for your recommendation. I just have one question for you. We hear lots of different things here. So you're talking about a hypothetical case. Is your recommendation that we invite complainants for dogs being at large to also come to appeals? Or just for certain cases?
For dogs being at large?
People calling dogs at large, and somebody appeals that ticket. Is your suggestion we have them all here? Does that make sense? So the person that called in and said there's a dog at large, the officers pick up a dog, the person who owns the dog cited, they appeal that citation. Are you just making a flat suggestion, or in certain cases?
Well, I've just been told that there are certain cases where the complainant would not be notified.
Well, I was just responding to your suggestion that we would notify them. Is it for all cases or just specific?
I'm saying if they're notified, if they're supposed to be notified based on that case, then someone on the commission should have verification that they were
Okay.
notified. Now, if everyone knows just as a case where the person who made the complaint, we decided it wasn't important to notify them that the person was ticketed and that they're appealing. You know, because there's no property damage or injury to the complainant, then they wouldn't be notified, therefore no one on the commission would be notified that the complainant was notified.
Gotcha.
I'm saying if there's a case where someone was required to file an affidavit to support
Okay.
a citation being issued, but we're also told that, you know, that was just being done as a matter of record and that the county couldn't do anything, then the commission should know that that complainant was never notified that there was an appeal.
Gotcha. Okay, we'll definitely take that under advisement. I think that's something that, it's a policy thing internally and some stuff that we'll go into.
Yeah.
But thank you for that suggestion.
Okay,
One of the things, if I may, one of the things that, I know whenever, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, one of you and then the other.
Dan, you already.
Okay, so, like to address Mr. Percha, I don't mean any disrespect, but you're talking about hypotheticals. That sounds like it's based on actual events that took place. Other than beating around the bush, it'd be a whole lot simpler for us, for you to just tell us, this is what happened, why didn't we do this? Because with hypotheticals, you could ask us the same question, we would have 6 different answers for it. There's no way
I
to know
tried.
exactly what you're getting at or what you're asking, other than hypothetical and what it is. We can't give you a
I'm just
direct
making
answer
a
on what it is.
recommendation in order to prevent some things that happened to me from happening to anyone
But if we
else.
knew what happened to you, that would be a whole lot simpler for everybody to understand and what, and to answer your question correctly.
Officer Best, we do have this in our minutes from when dealing with it before, so that is on record what happened previously. We've discussed that as a commission, what happened previously, so we will take this and advise it in the future.
And I think that I was hoping Mr. Baker would be here. I'm currently being prevented from communicating with the responding officer that was involved in at least 3 different incidences. He was the responding and reporting officer. And I've tried several times over a very long period of time to communicate with him to make a request. And is Mr. Brummett, is Deputy Brummett?
Yeah, Brett Brumman, yeah, Chief Deputy from the Sheriff's Office.
I think you were copied on some of that communication, but currently, the legal department has been and continues to intervene to block my communication and is apparently ordering the officer involved not to respond because he will not respond.
And unfortunately, we,
Understand what your point is. But that is, the communication part is out of our purview.
The wild part,
The communication issue you're thinking about is beyond our purview.
well,
That-
it's gotten to the point where I'm being told by the attorney that if I want to access law enforcement, I need to go to an attorney.
Well, if that's what they're telling you, that's your prerogative, but that's out of our.
This happened 2 or 3 years ago.
Abilities. Can somebody,
no, I mean,
Okay,
again, so
well, I
you
guess I
have,
better leave it there,
yeah, I mean,
but,
there's multiple concerns and multiple different, so
yeah.
as far as the commission, we hear your recommendation. So that we'll record and we'll definitely discuss that and look at our policies and how that's handled for that piece. Unfortunately, when it comes to what's happening with you and county legal, that's outside of
Yeah.
what we can do here.
Well, yeah, it is, but it shouldn't be.
it's never been in our purview to do that. That's a separate matter. What all we're doing is taking the appeals, listening to the cases that we have, basically strictly on that, not anything that would be related to anything civil or anything outside of that.
Yeah,
Only the content of what the tickets are.
my concern.
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
Nope.
No, my concern is what's occurring is that the legal department is assuming a certain authority within the sheriff's department that it shouldn't have.
Legal department's doing that because I told them to.
So you,
I'm done with this. I'm done. I'm done. I'm not talking anymore. You need to get an attorney if you want to fight
and
this.
I feel like.
This is 2 year, this is 2 or 3 year old. I'm not dealing with it anymore.
It's not even about that issue anymore. It's about the fact that.
And we said we would follow your recommendation. Virgil here said we would take up your recommendation.
Yeah.
So with your concern about legal and that type of stuff, again, that's outside of what we do here at the commission. That goes, you can discuss it with the legal higher ups, you can discuss it with the county commissioners, but it's beyond what we can do.
Okay, Deputy Braun, I just want to say that I have no beef with law enforcement or any officer. But I'm being put in the position where in order to simply address an old record for.
You're wanting the record changed and we're
No,
not,
no, no, no.
that's what I've been told, and we're not doing it. I'm
But-
really
So-
done with it.
But that's not true, and what's happening is I'm being put in a position where I'm going to have to report an
I'm sorry.
officer and you,
I'm sorry.
and I don't want to do that.
I would go ahead and do that. I would go ahead and do that.
Okay,
You do what you gotta do.
I'm really so very sorry.
No, it's no issue with me.
Behind you.
It's no issue with me. You gotta do what you need to do, you feels right. That's what I suggest you do.
Russell, I think you,
Okay.
I appreciate that. I appreciate what you're saying.
Okay.
And we will consider
Yeah,
what
I
we're
just
able to
feel-
consider.
I feel like as a citizen, I should be able to access law enforcement.
You can stop by our office any
You
day.
can, you're outside of here. You can
Okay,
go by
so-
if you
I'll let you
get
talk to
that.
the sheriff.
Right.
Okay,
Please.
all right,
If you want to do
awesome.
that, you may
Awesome.
certainly do that.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night, everybody.
You too.
Take a breather just for a quick second.
All right.
Ken, was there something you wanted to say?
What I was gonna say, and this could be on the record. My understanding is anytime an AMO has contact with the public, a service request generally. And that if there's a complaint, there's a spot in here for complaints, they identify themselves, and they indicate whether they're willing to testify or not. Most of the time I see no. You can see this.
Absolutely.
To undo all of the drama and the history and all that, and just focus in on the suggestion that she had, where a complainant is contacted if a defendant is brought before us.
And I would think if they had pertinent information, we would tell them they didn't hear.
Well, what I'm wondering is whether it
I
be
don't-
possible,
We already do that.
whether it be possible within the service request, the way it's set up, to add one more box to say whether they wish to be contacted if this comes before us.
That one
Because the
more-
contact information.
That one more box, Mike, is that on the
No,
printed or those written citations?
But normally,
That's through county legal.
Yeah.
Well, they want to send an invitation to this party and that party, and I had this conversation with Chris just recently. Because we did have a couple PD declarations, and the owner of the big mammal that was killed was not invited. So I did suggest that we do that, especially in something like that.
The reason I'm on here is because I have a backdoor neighbor whose horse had a habit of getting out and taking, leaving himself in my yard. Okay, and we also have no street lights, we have school buses coming through and going and all that, and, you know, when his case was brought here, because I was paying attention, I showed up, but I wasn't actually contacted. To invite me to come here, so I see where she's coming from.
but they don't, I'm sorry.
So the thing, I actually see some merit in the suggestion, again, forgetting the past, forgetting her personal involvement and all that. I see some merit in the overall suggestion to come up with a modification to our system that automatically notifies the complainant about an appeal for a case that they initiated. And I don't know if we have something like that in place or not.
And this is something, Dan, get with me Tuesday or Wednesday, we can get with.
I would say
There's-
there's
Talk about that.
discretion.
But we can also, if we have evidence, clear evidence, I've seen this board many times, still either we lower the ticket, we compromise, I mean,
It's, so adding from an enforcement perspective, your complainant can help your case. And it's good to bring here to back up a ticket. It can also hurt the case
Yeah.
and make it fall apart. So in that sense, I think that is would be up to an officer discretion. I do think and I mean, this will go into our discussion about potentially dangerous and vicious, is to some extent, I think it makes sense for victims to be here for those cases. So
I
if there's,
thought most of
if
the
there's a
time I thought
victim,
we invited, we always did that.
I thought so too until recently.
But on cases like those, generally, the authorities are gonna want to show up. Most of the
Well, I
time.
was assuming something was wrong, so.
All right.
Just a fair matter.
Are you good? Kim? Okay, okay, you were getting a little pumped up.
I reviewed all her calls, my, vice to legal department that did, everything that I found was a civil issue. She's mad because the neighbor's dog is touching her fence. That's a big part.
Yeah.
The dog comes over, it brushes up against her fence, it's her fence,
Okay,
it touches her fence.
okay. I guess it's a matter of perspective opinion.
Still on record.
Whether-
all right, should we go to the next thing?
Do we, do you have anything else? Kim, were you good with what you wanted to say for the moment? Kim? Yeah,
Yes, thank you. That's all I want to say was,
okay, thank you. I just
there
wanna
was
make
some,
sure
there was some
you're-
merit to the argument she was making.
Thank you, I just want to make sure. you're-
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, since we got
Which has nothing to do with her case.
public has been taken care of, we're done with that.
Okay, I
The
don't-
primary business for tonight would be to discuss some ordinance situation. So let's begin there. Who would like to kick the ball around? Valerie, Virgil, I guess. You guys wanna-
I'm happy, I sent out a little sheet, just kind of familiarize people. My suggestion for this evening is that we talk more big picture than about the ordinances, rather than getting down deep, since legal's not here. And they'll have the last say on language anyway, so that would just be my suggestion for the evening. Valerie can correct me if I'm wrong, from previous discussions with multiple groups. There's been, one is this ordinance currently is mirrored in the city and the county. So it's almost word for word in both. There's a few little differences. And that should continue, especially since we have a lot of people moving between city and county. And if these are truly dangerous dogs, we want to be aware of that. The second thing is there's a lack of kind of a higher ticket or fine for a bite than for somebody whose dog is barking, which seems a little odd. So that's something we might want to address or think about changing.
The classification.
The classification of a public nuisance ticket that goes with the bite. And then the third is potentially dangerous level 1, and I spoke a bit with Dan about this too. Does this really serve any purpose? We don't see a lot of those cases. Does it make sense to actually have that as a piece? So those are just some initial thoughts.
Are you suggesting to take PD1 and just rank, take it out, just leave PD2 and 3, just rename them?
That would be an easy one. We could either do PD1, well, we could get rid of PD1 and keep, and kind of fold that into PD2.
Okay,
And then have a PD3 or change that to a dangerous and then keep the the vicious as one idea.
Well,
And I don't think that's a bad idea. It is, I think, kind of what I've always kind of felt like PD1 was about was, hey, you might have a problem. It hadn't gotten very bad, but be on alert. And that was kind of that, so the question was, how many PD1s did we see that never, ever came back or never made it to PD2, that type of deal? If that's so there is some possible merit there. But if PD1 and 2 are lumped together and that's the new PD1, then actually you kind of do have a problem. It's not like hinting towards one, you actually have a problem. And that type of deal. So, I've looked at some of because I was like, invisible fences for PD1 make sense. They should be fine. It's all about just trying to keep your animal contained, keep your eye on it, taking greater responsibility, that type of deal, because your animal has tendencies. But if we lump 1 and 2 together, which I'm not against, I do think we need to also look then, what are the requirements? Because that's been part of the problem, is PD1 and PD2 requirements are exactly the same. I mean, they're pretty much the same thing. So there's not that delineation to be able to say, hey, an invisible fence is great with PD1, but PD2, maybe not so much. That type of deal. Or do we expand what the requirements are that you do, and to make that the shuffle to how to break these up a little bit better? I mean, to me, the easy ones are vicious. We could go straight to vicious right now. We could probably come down with a really good solid hammer because that's that extreme. It's this very early on that seems to be where we get challenged.
makes sense. If you try to expand in the other direction, what kind of ideas are we talking about here? Do we have any thought on that yet? Either,
Similar.
I thought you said something about if we try to expand. Maybe I misunderstood.
Talk about expanding or looking at the requirements.
Like maybe we're more clear in when we call an enclosed, an enclosure situation.
Cleaning up the wording.
Yeah, so maybe it's like invisible fences, 4-foot fences, whatever would be allowed in this section, but then if your dog's breached over to another level, whether we keep 1 and 2 together, and then now there's a new 1, a new 2, and a new vicious, however, because that was kind of our goal, is to just get us down a little bit. But making that where it's much more clear of when, no, this one requires a 6-foot fence, or 5, something along that line.
Would you put, are you suggesting in a situation like that, a universal?
No, I'm just throwing it out.
Wait, let me finish. Are you talking about a universal height, or are you suggesting something that's more practical in nature of the size of the animal involved?
That could be. I'm just looking for something that's a little more permanent than.
That's what I'm going at. That's where I'm going at with that question. Okay, continue on. I'm just trying to get a clear idea where we're thinking here.
That's my question.
Or Valerie, go ahead, please, or anyone.
I'm curious to see what others think of that idea.
What did Dan think of the merging PD1, PD2?
Well, now that Valerie speaks up about that, kind of opens up the whole other side that I didn't really give much thought to. So maybe she's right, maybe because of the fencing, should a person be allowed to build a permanent fence because a dog is intimidating? So maybe it'd be more so to keep the PD1 and 2 and take the 3 out and put it more towards the vicious side.
I guess I kind of just try to read it as what's our end game here? One thing we know, we want as many microchipped animals as we can get. So making that kind of a standard, no matter, PD1, whatever it is, you have to have a microchip. But if it's progressive on some of the other types of things, it's just trying to make it, I think, a little bit clearer to the people of, I guess what I want, and I know this is being recorded, but I kind of want that like aha, oh shit moment where like, oh, I got to do something. That my dog just kind of nipping is not a good thing.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's an argument for keeping the levels, I think, because if we're trying to get people to think about it, we want them as early as possible. I know we've talked about PD1 not seeing a whole lot and then not seeing them return, and we don't really have data on why they haven't come back. But is that, we see a fair number already.
When you say they don't return, I mean, they don't return to have the declaration removed, or they don't return
Either.
because they have another violation and now.
Both, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of times we just don't know.
Yeah.
So why are invisible fences not allowable for PD1? I mean, that's because we put in the ordinance.
No visible fences are coming.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, Russell, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's so I wasn't here when the originally was passed, why invisible fences were permitted, but this would be my thought process of why that makes sense. These are ordinances looking at dogs that either have a potential to be or will harm somebody. An invisible fence does not put a visible barrier for the person entering that property to know that something's going on. So while it might keep the dog from escaping, it doesn't prevent another animal or a person from entering into that dog who could do damage.
And we could talk a lot about the benefits of invisible fences. It's dependent on the battery and the collar being fully charged. It's dependent on the dog. If the dog has been willing to go through the fence, but is unwilling to come back through the fence, now the
And
fence
that's
screws in.
Again, we're talking about a potentially dangerous dog.
Right.
And this is actually a dog that's not really done anything yet.
PD1.
So,
Or-
I mean, if you want to make some difference in between the two, yeah, is that our goal, to make the differences in, sort of some difference in between these PD1 and PD2? I mean, you go with, the visible fences are allowed, along with signage, which would be a lot cheaper than having to put up their own fence.
A lot of the reason that the whole fence situation came up, a good majority of it, as I recall, I've been here so long, is a lot of what Ken was saying, because the control, the batteries, all the things above were in question, especially if there was a potential that there's a very likely potential that the dog was going to violate that and move up. It's one of the reasons that was put in, why the invisible fence situation was put added in.
Right, so if we.
I'm not clear, I apologize.
No, yeah, you're clear. What I'm hearing is that if we keep PD1, we should definitely look at removing that exemption to allow a little bit more flexibility per case. So if we keep PD1, we could remove that clause, invisible fences are not permitted, and leave that as, depending on the case, we as a commission could add it or leave it off. It just gives a little bit more flexibility.
Well, as it is, then if you remove the invisible fence, no invisible fence, it basically just leaves, must be in a secure outdoor enclosure, correct? Everything
he
else,
said leave it all.
and leash, I'm sorry, and leash. That would be it for the time being based on what's here now, correct?
So, okay,
So what, is there anything you
What-
want to be
so-
adding?
so while on the owner of garden's property must be kept indoors or a secured closure which animal cannot escape and which children cannot trespass. I mean, this is this is where invisible fences don't fit that.
Well, so if we
We
go
have change
back,
number one.
One at a time, guys. Go ahead. Now, Valerie, go ahead. I'm just trying to make sure that we don't fuss with the mic.
so if we go back and if we think about potentially dangerous is the concept that your dog has shown some tendencies for something. So we're saying when not under control of adult or that type of deal, it needs to have some sort of barrier, okay? And maybe this is where we do need, maybe we need to add the signs to this side of it so that, yeah, you can have an invisible fence. But if your dog's been declared PD1, you need to put beware of dog signs on it as kind of a warning for kids or whatever. But you can still have an invisible fence because at this point in time, they haven't done anything horrible yet, but we're making sure that the neighbors and whatever know that there could be something there. Then if you take 2 and 3 and you put them together, and that is your dangerous animal, meaning it has bitten somebody, it has run over and chased somebody, it's done something that is above and beyond that causes some type of injury. And maybe even within that, we allow ourselves some flexibility of where that is, what that means. And then 3 is literally vicious because it's been of some sort of act that is really just like, wow, you degloved somebody, you bit them multiple times, you bit them, that type of deal. I don't know.
So you would be you'd be expanding fairly visible warning signs all across the spectrum.
And maybe that's too much. I don't know. I just am
No,
kind of trying to throw out how to get us down kind of like 3 things.
So that it's easier to grasp.
Mhm.
Well, I'm just looking at the chart, I mean, at the category. And that would mean we'd be changing the visible warning sign to go throughout all the levels under what I think I heard you just say, Valerie.
Mhm.
But
Or
then
maybe it's,
and that means the only major difference would be if we didn't change anything else except the invisible fence, would be the approval on the outdoor enclosure.
So if I can, I think we're putting the cart before the horse, and we're talking about spending a lot of time talking about requirements and not spending
I'm sorry.
time. No, you're fine. And where I think we need to figure out if we are, do we want to go from 4 to 3? And if so, what are those 3 groups? And then look at those groups to decide what the results are. So, I mean, because we have, if we're going to 3, we have the 1 being some aggressive acts or a very minor bite, 2 being a serious bite, and then 3, this dog could seriously harm or kill somebody if something happens again. Just throwing out like 3 groupings that in my mind make sense.
I would tend to agree. I mean, vicious days, because of the nature of vicious. I would think, yeah, we could just
I'm almost like,
put a 3 PD2 down as 1 and you're going further on.
I'm almost
And,
combining 3, level 3 and vicious. I think if a level 3 doesn't reach about vicious to me, I mean,
I mean, if you've been bit multiple times or whatever, to that individual, that dog is vicious, whether it only bit you one time with all 4 teeth or multiple times with 2 teeth, so I think I'm just trying to think real.
The only time that doesn't seem to kind of fit that is when it's in the current reading of the ordinances, is that would include a dog who's done minor injury multiple times. And that's the one where I personally question, I can see both, but I personally question whether that dog should be considered vicious if it's nipped people's heels 4 times or chased bikes down the street 4 times.
Well, is that something we can make a decision, make him a pity too?
Well, I mean, I think that's where we need to kind of have that, but when they're, and then how we address a chronic biter versus a dangerous biter. I can't believe I'm saying those words.
Okay. I understand what. I forgot what I was going to say. Somebody go on.
Isn't that just a matter of changing the verbiage to take that out of the PD3 at this time and put it into PD2?
Well, yeah, and then the question is, if we don't have the 1, 2, 3, and we take that out and we switch that verbiage around, are we assuming then that the continue stuff would just fall into a habitual ordinance, which would be one way to deal with it. So they've been declared PD2 or whatever the second level is. They're not quite vicious, but they kind of keep going on the second level. Then it's, for the ordinance, it would already be a habitual offender, so we just need to do it as a habitual. Would that work? Does that make sense?
I think that could work.
I tend to feel that way too, Ken. You go through these stuff much more frequently because of where you read them.
Yeah, so Valerie, you're not here, so I handed out a summary. I gave everybody a copy of the current flow chart for the county, which on the first page includes the current requirements if you're declared. On the third page, I took that table and I also added a second table looking at the unapproved language section of your handout, which shows what I'm interpreting as the changes. On my computer at home, it's in red, but I don't have a printer that prints in red, so I had to underline and put in italics the differences between the two.
Send it to me. I've got a color printer. Do you ever need it?
Yeah.
So just the unapproved language is the language from our discussion that
Right.
happened in 2019, 2020?
I think so, yeah.
And that wasn't approved by the council,
Right.
so.
So the table on page 3 is complete. I mean, the whole thing's fiction, because the flow chart is a tool to help. It's my interpretation of the order of the ands and the ors and the therefores and the ifs and the thens that are in the ordinance. And we've used it for a few years and it's probably pretty accurate, but it is complete. It's not approved by county legal. It's just a tool. But I wanted to give you guys a copy of it because it lets you take a look at the differences between PD1 and PD2, what levels of naughtiness a dog has to achieve in order to satisfy a PD1 or a PD2 declaration, and they are similar. 1 to 3 puncture wounds, bruises, abrasions. PD1 requires a defensive action, and if the dog hasn't been previously declared, PD2 doesn't care about a previous action, but cares about whether the dog's been previously declared. So there's a couple of minor differences, but we have 1 and 2 in order to be able to differentiate between a first-time offender. And all we want to do is make certain that the dog is kept away from the public and it's not allowed to run around free. But so the only requirements we have is that if the dog's on his own in the yard can't be escaped from. And if the dog's out in public, he has to be on a leash. PD2 introduces alterations and microchipping and all that other stuff. That's the only difference currently between 1 and 2 consequence points. What we talked about last time was to allow the AMC to allow an owner to have an invisible fence on a case-by-case basis, regardless of declaration level. We also, we're going to require microchipping at all, if you come in before us and you're declared at any level, you need to have your dog microchipped. And the only other difference between the current and what we talked about last time was if you've got a vicious dog, the signage had to say vicious animal. If I remember correctly. And all that's summarized on the last page, the differences there. Whether we, yeah, go ahead.
First off, Ken, I don't think you should undersell the importance of that flow chart at all, because how many times have we whipped it out and used it? Because
Oh,
it's
because on the record, I don't
us
want to
to
say that the flow chart is an approved
yeah,
tool. It's.
yeah,
it's
but
clear this
second
is
of all, is that a document you can email me
Yeah, I can.
and I can look at it
I'll do
too?
it at home, I don't have it with me here. What was the, oh yeah, we also talked about getting rid of PD3 and just calling it dangerous. Which I would actually continue to support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would, does it, if we went from 4, my question, if we went from 4 to 3, would you still go with an potentially dangerous, vicious?
Yes, yeah, that is good, numbers, just use words. And we have to figure out for PD 1 and 2, is it all, because now we only have one potential dangerous level. So do we throw everything in, or do we pull something out and pop it into dangerous?
That's the discussion we can get into a little more detail
Yeah.
later.
Yep.
Unless you have something.
Well,
I
I feel we're coming to some agreement, but I still have, when it comes to the levels, my concerns that I kind of want to throw out are livestock attacks and where they get placed and how we treat those. That never feels like, and also, I mean, that just never feels like it makes sense. And when it comes to the death of domestic pet, where does that fall on the charts? Those are a little bit more cloudy, should I say? So I'm just curious if anybody has anything on those.
Maybe some of that could be addressed in some of the wording, and we can count toward that part of it. I don't know. I'm just throwing out what we might need to do to clean that.
Yeah.
Clarify what you're. About wild.
Well, okay. Yeah, I'm just curious if anybody here has any feelings, initial feelings of where, like, death of livestock, doesn't matter what kind of livestock, whether that's a dangerous dog or potentially dangerous dog or
Yeah.
vicious dog or.
Well, the problem we run into is, you know, killing one chicken, killing an entire flock of chickens, you know, is a chicken compared to a pig, to a horse, to a cow. And while we may have a tendency in our group to kind of say, oh, it's just a chicken, but it's not if it's like that person's pet. So that's where we run into is an emotional aspect that is very difficult to legislate in that particular sense. So I
Would
don't.
it help if there's something more that a life, I don't mean like people, I just mean a living entity, period, instead of going that specific. I don't know if I would,
No.
for clarity purposes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and so in my head, for clarity purposes, when it comes to finding responsibility for the actions or financial responsibility for the actions that happened, that makes sense for what we are doing here by trying to determine how dangerous this dog is to the community. I'm not sure that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah,
see
I agree.
both. Go ahead, Valerie, I didn't even cut you.
No, I was going to say, I agree with Virgil, and I think that is a real challenge. You know, public human safety is one thing that, you know, we can get everybody on board on probably pretty easily. It's the other that's going to be a challenge. And if you say, well, the cat was, you know, was an indoor outdoor cat and the dog came over and killed it, You know, some people are gonna go, well, that's what you get for having your cat indoor, outdoor, but in the reality, why can't they have it indoor, outdoor if it was on their property? The dog came over to theirs. So that's, once again, we get back into the emotional side of it. So I guess there is, and maybe that is a little bit where we're getting stumbled, is there a level of degree, potentially dangerous, vicious, that is related to human bodily injury or defense mechanism? And then is there a separate one that is based on animal to animal, whether that's livestock or domestic?
The only problem, I only question I get when you try something like that is consistent in following what decisions we make in any given case.
That's always a good point. How do we make sure we are coming to the same, or at least as close to the same decision as possible with each case when they vary so differently? Yeah.
That's why I get into a little bit when we talk about some of the cases. But I'm not trying to take you guys off. Is there anything in this that we're discussing that you have any strong opinion to?
A couple of things, I mean, with just what you're talking about right there. If it kills a domestic animal or livestock, injures livestock, then, I mean, it's only a year. You know, that declaration's only a year. If they're concerned about it, they will come back in a year. So, I mean, just my opinion, I don't see that being that big a deal. It's potentially dangerous. You've got a year, you can have it removed. And with the microchipping, I would like to see the microchipping in every one of these situations. I went out to people's houses later. Yeah, we got rid of that dog. This is its sibling. No, it's not. It's the same damn dog. So, you know, it would be nice to enforce the microchipping on every one of them.
Just in general, for when we get to language of this ordinance, so it's on here, I would propose, especially when we're looking at dangerous and vicious ordinance, that there's some sort of fee associated with it, so that it is a required follow-up for.
The more teeth to it.
Well, it's just so that there is that piece where, you know, we're not calling it a permit, but basically they are like a permit, where an officer is following up with them and is maintaining that relationship, is dropping by to check on the animal. I think that's a piece that's not currently in our ordinance that would be nice to make sure we have.
I would tend to feel like that might. Which actually sort of my question. Have we had anybody come back after they've been declared and request to be removed? Maybe one case, right?
We say that, we say no amount. Next month, we're liable to have somebody.
We've had one on the county that I can remember in the last 6 years.
I don't can remember one here that might have been that situation.
But
I think that it was acceptable to the animal guys.
If we can agree at least on something like combining one of these together, how we're gonna do it, if we can agree on that, and then we can have that, someone get with legal and help them draw it up and mesh it together. That ain't got the biggest thing right now. We gotta at least agree.
yeah,
What we're going.
you're gonna make a motion that we're gonna move to, I think that makes sense. And whether it's we get with legal or a couple of us get together on a Google Doc and iron out some language and we bring it back for legal, we can do
I
that way
would,
too.
yeah.
Bring it back to the board. But I think if we can at least agree on which one to merge, or not to merge any of them, and then sounds like everybody's wanting to merge at least something.
Well, I would propose our motion or whatever we're wanting to do here to merge one into two and work from that point forward. So that we are reducing 4 down to 3 levels.
So, yeah, so I'm just trying to remember what conversation, because we talked about merging 1 and 2. We talked about kind of merging 2 and 3, but also 3 and Vicious. So,
I'm
I mean, I think,
I'm strictly, just for argument's sake, 1 and 2 right now, because then we kind of have to probably play a little bit with 2 and 3 if we try to do something there.
I mean, unless there's something more tonight, I like the idea of a couple of us getting together and
Okay.
ironing out some general language and bringing it back.
We
Yeah,
talked about.
I mean, I
level
think,
3. Sorry.
Ross,
We talk about level 3, maybe going vicious, because it's
Mhm.
the smallest and it would be the less complicated maybe. I mean, I think the important thing is that we have leeway in all, we have great leeway. That's the biggest thing. We need the leeway. We need, like when an officer goes to the scene, he's got choices. We need lots of choices.
that's part of the reason I'm only projecting right now 1 and 2 until we've had an opportunity to try and figure out what if you need to be some leeway between what would effectively be 1 and then 2 or not. I don't want to cut something off prematurely and have to go back and unthink all of it.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. I think of it all together. So if we're gonna start merging, I would rather us just kind of have general language of what it would look like with 3.
yeah, I guess where I agree. I think we should have 3 categories. And maybe that's as far as we get right now. But then I think, I mean, I almost in my brain see all 3 categories. We have little Post-it notes with each little detail of that. And we start sitting there going, is that a 1 or is that a 2? And, and there could be a whole lot of things that get put in the middle because they which we're going to have to write that language a little bit differently. And there might be things that we go one way or the other. But I think to right now, just say we're going to merge 1 and 2. I don't think is completely accurate without us having a chance to go through the details and kind of pull them all apart as singular, is it 3 bytes? Is it 2 bytes? That type of deal, and really be able to look at that. But I think if we can get down to potentially dangerous, vicious, and that's what we're going to work towards. I think really we're probably looking at an hour or so on a separate kind of get together where we could kind of play that game.
I think
And we
Lee
could
would.
do a human
I'd
version.
like to have Lee in this too. I mean, Lee Baker, I like to have him in.
I agree.
Is this something we would do in an official meeting though, or is this something that we want to farm out to a small group and bring a proposal back?
Farm out, small group.
Yeah, I did
Yeah.
too.
I mean, if you want to go back to Sue, Virgil, and I meeting again to kind of do that and then bring back, we could do that. Or if one of you want to jump in there and be that instead, it doesn't matter. But I would say
Well,
small group of 3, and Virgil has to be one of them.
I like to volunteer. I got volunteer for something. I'd like to see you volunteer. I like that idea.
Ken, you've been very quiet.
Yeah.
I love you, Russell. You're so great.
Okay. I'm fine. I just, I like to have everybody, that's all. Yeah, I would think, just go through small group and try. And
Just kick it back.
Okay.
and tear it apart, if you will, like Valerie is suggesting, and see what pops out of it.
Well, I think if we had some language in front of us, we could compare, that would be a lot.
Right.
Yeah,
And say,
I'm
yeah,
trying to
this,
figure
look at the current, look at the,
okay.
I'm good.
You good with that?
I mean, I have lots of other things to go through, but I think-
Two more.
no, I think that makes sense to do this, and then they'll either be answered or I'll bring them up later.
All right, and that may lead to better discussion on the other point you were thinking about. Okay. Is that all on the ordinance stuff for right now? Do you guys have?
I'm good right now.
Valerie, you good?
I'm good.
Okay. Having said that, then we have report Virgil Animal Shelter.
It's October, which means it's Adopt a Dog Month. We're having adoption specials on our dogs all month. This month, we decided to just knock our adoption fee for everything 6 months and up to $30. Try to get them out the door and promote dog adoptions and keep our puppies the same adoption fee. We have several off-site events coming up. As far as the shelter, we're kind of back down to our normal staffing levels and population levels. So we're kind of leaving the summer chaos and entering the
Staffing's
fall.
up and your population's down.
The best way it can be, isn't it?
I'm on your job.
It's rare, but it happens.
It is rare from all the years I've been hearing on this report. Anyway, that's good. Appreciate that. Officer Russell, Vance, do you guys have anything you need to bring up with us?
We have a new animal management officer,
Good.
started last Monday,
Name?
Jacob Williams.
Mr. Williams.
Yep, he was a Green County jailer for the last 4 to 5 years.
4 years.
4 years. And I think it's gonna work out real good.
So,
Well, yeah. 3 weeks, we will have another one starting.
that's confirmed.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So we will
So our staff is
be where you want to be. Yeah.
We are in the rebuilding process.
Constantly.
The new officer, we just started far enough along, you're fairly comfortable with him?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think he's gonna work out really good. He's very motivated and willing to learn and ready to get right in it, so.
Okay. Russell, is there anything directly from the department?
No, we're good.
Very good.
I asked this last week about the new officer. I didn't get a satisfactory answer. Does he bake?
Well, I don't know, and I'm not gonna ask you.
I don't think I answered that, and that is me on the record. So.
Can we choose what goes on record now?
That's fine.
Right.
Lee is not here, so we don't have legal unless, virtual, he left you anything.
Nope.
About me.
Good.
Okay.
I've got one for part 4, annual management discussion.
And then that's the last item on we don't have anything else on, what am I missing?
Our catch-all discussion.
Oh, that's where I'm going. I meant report is what I've done. So any other discussion anybody needs to discuss at this point?
I've got one. I was contacted by county commissioner's secretary to find out whether I'd be interested in serving 3 more years if they put my name before the commission. With my health issues right now, I don't think right now I can sign up for them. I think what I need to do, I've had to step back off of Arts Forward, and I've had to retard my involvement with the orchestra. And now it's AMC's turn for me to take a step back. I think what I'm probably going to recommend is that I take a year sabbatical and review this at the end of the year, next year, to see whether my health has improved to the point where I can reliably support you guys. The timing sucks because there's never a good time to step away. I'd be taking, I don't know.
Well, I
9, 12
certainly
years
like having
experience.
you, especially when we get into
Yeah.
this.
I hate this, but I also hate being sick.
Understandable.
Yeah, so I'm considering, I haven't made a decision yet, but I'm considering saying, thank you, no, thank you, let's talk about this a year from now. I can't. I'm either a member of the commission or I'm not, and my appointment expires on December 31st. So it's not like, let's extend this for a few months and see if I'm better. I've got to make a decision before the end of the year. So I wanted to let you guys know, or give you guys a chance to talk me into staying, or if they're bribery Fake birds for you. Okay.
Well,
Do you think?
I can give you a quick argument. I can
Well,
give
Kroger
you-
buys something.
That's where all my buttons come from.
Yeah.
Laundry, yes, I'm sorry.
I can give you a real quick argument from my own perspective.
Please.
I've been here a very, very long time. I know what it takes to be able to do this. We all do.
Right.
But obviously, the health concern is the first priority, just as if it was any of us for family like William is dealing with today. So you certainly do what you would like, what you feel is right. But in my regard, I would love to have you stay because you're such an asset.
Sure, I appreciate that. And frankly, the burden of all the things I've had to step back from, this is the least burdensome. It's a day a month when we actually meet, and then occasionally during the month, 1 or 2 days. So it's not a burden, but even that, I wasn't certain for sure that I'd be able to make it here tonight. It's been a rough week. So I don't want to use you guys as an excuse to say, I don't want my participation and my participation to result in you guys not being able to conduct business because you're expecting me to be here, which your fault for having me on. No, it's not that at all. I just want to let you guys know that I'll have a decision before we meet again. But it's right now, if I make the decision tonight, I'd probably be stepping in at the end of the year. So just want to let you guys know. So I will be bringing excess Halloween candy to the next meeting because we never have kids. I always buy more candy than the kids come and take. And they don't like the stuff I get. Chiclets, yeah,
It's gonna be after Halloween next week.
I could have had to take small couple months sabbatical for other reasons. I don't, there's not be a problem with that if there's no legal issue that really stops that from, technically, you have this competitive issue, but I don't know how that would apply in your case.
right.
And I mean, from a commission standpoint too, this brings up an idea of where it would be beneficial to have, rather than have 9 open slots that we never fill, to have less permanent slots and non-voting members that can help us with discussions like we had this evening.
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
something
And as a member of the public, I can show up. And I can hey, did you guys talk about putting a spreadsheet together? Here's an idea, you know, so it doesn't mean like you guys are free from me.
yeah,
But I wouldn't be a voting participatory member of the commission.
Well, even if you do step down, you would be certainly always welcome to come chat at us. If it's hearing something we might be of help to us. Okay.
Just want to give you guys a heads up, the changes may be coming.
In any way, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I will miss the next meeting, so
Say that.
let me know before.
Sure. Sure. You don't want to be sending agendas and stuff to people who are on the commission.
No, I just won't be here in beginning of November.
Okay.
Just for that meeting.
Just for that meeting.
Just
I'll
that
somebody,
meeting.
I'll have somebody in my
Yeah,
staff.
and that's, we're gonna run up against my meetings to come. Well, I'll talk about this more when we get a little bit closer, because we're gonna get into a little bit of an issue with forums for a couple of months, maybe. So, but that said, I'll table all of that for right now. Can do whatever you feel is best for you. Let's just put it that way. We certainly want you to be healthy.
Thanks.
Anyway, having said all that.
You guys are gonna copy all this, don't worry. I'll keep it. You guys are gonna copy.
Love this.
Having
I
said,
actually do.
having said all that, I'm not trying to butt you off. I'm trying to do this. Having said all that, is there any other matters or immediately any of you need to discuss with this to us? Having hearing none, I would suggest we adjourn until the next.
I would
meeting.
second.
No, say aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
See you down the road.
Don't make us learn this.